so the Christmas season is almost here. So it's now the season to be jolly.
I don't always feel jolly.
Exactly. Just think of the lines in the stores and the traffic in the
Makes me
streets.
angry.
Not to mention, if you have some seriously stressful stuff going on. Maybe you had a rough year, some family drama. If you look at some of these numbers...
That mustache is funny.
Mm-hmm. The season can be disappointing if there's family drama or you look back and you feel like the year
Such
was
a
a
waste.
With Christmas chaos, does life feel
Out
out
of control.
What we do about it makes all the difference.
Makes all the difference. Are you angry, Robert? You look angry.
Well, good morning. I am Robert Kelly. I'm one of the pastors here at the church. For those I haven't yet had an opportunity to meet, so glad that you are here with us celebrating the Christmas season, and as part of that, joining us for our Angry Birds series. So I know many of you have still been wondering how it is. We're going to be tying it in each week. You know, there's a little explanation necessary. Why did we do Angry Birds? And why did we do that for our Christmas series? It's sort of a step or two removed from the Nativity story. And we did it largely, and this is important, because we like the game. And we also did it because now we get to play Angry Birds here all month and call it research. So this is the main reasons that we did Angry Birds as our Christmas series, and we are having quite a bit of fun with it. Now, for those of you who don't know the game, it's fairly straightforward. Best-selling app. We talked about some of the statistics last week. Well, the birds woke up one day and their eggs had been stolen by the pigs. So they are, of course, the birds, righteously indignant that their hopes, dreams, and future have been stolen. That's kind of the key underlying principle of the game. And because you can play it anywhere you want on your phone, is why it's so unbelievably addicting, is what people tell me. And so now, another key part of the Angry Birds idea is that there are lots of different types of birds. And all of those birds, each of those birds, is unique in some special way. We have a little video clip here, right? Let's show you guys a couple of these birds. Love the red bird. Old Faithful. Nice straightforward hit. Solid player. Bluebird. No one like the bluebird when it comes to the glass. Always great on wood. My personal favorite. The bombird. The birds. Each of these birds is unique in the way that it is utilized in the game. Anybody here have a favorite bird? Any of you players who are willing to admit it? Any of you have a favorite bird? Who's your favorite bird? I'm definitely in favor of the blackbird. I love the blackbird. I love the fact that after you launch him, he just explodes. He's got this kind of concussive power to him. He can kill birds that he doesn't even have to destroy the structures if they're hidden in a mountain or something. Anybody have a favorite bird? Yeah, the blackbird's awesome. He's got so much raw power. Any other bird lovers? You're just lying. We actually have a camera from the back, and we've seen how many of you are playing during the message. So don't be telling me you guys don't know. Anybody have a favorite bird? Anyone? Any player? No? Oh, yeah, right. Yellowbird, right. So now, if you are the kind of a person who plays this game It might be helpful, or if you haven't yet played it and you want to think about playing it, I'll give you a little bit of you know how they have these cheat sheets, these cheat codes you can kind of play? I'll give you a little hint to this game. If you're going to pick it up and start playing it, it's helpful right out of the gate to know a little bit about these birds. Yellowbird, great for the long distance, best shot imaginable, and he cuts through wood. Not so good on lots of other stuff, but really great on wood. Blackbird, fantastic in his concussive power, but doesn't really have the distance, can't really, kind of get it going. Bluebird, tiny little guy. Splits into three, though, almost miraculously. And he breaks glass better than any of the other birds. Birds 3 times his size, 4 times his size, with more power, can't handle glass like he can. Redbird, old, reliable. Every day, you just use that bird over and over, and he's just old, faithful, great distance, solid player. Definitely a valuable team member. See, if you're going to be playing the game, you got to know how each of these birds, the whitebird, he's got some secret talents. A lot of folks don't even know this. This is a great hint. Not only does he drop his egg, but if you play him well, he's got a secondary punch. So you could actually play him, and if you time him just right, when he flies off the screen, he gets to do all sorts of other stuff. Extra points, take out extra pigs. He's got like a double whammy, but you'd never know it at first. You just think he's sort of like fading out. They're also introducing new birds, of course, for us. You see, you need to know that you have to have like a kind of a little bit of a hint as to how you're going to be playing this and approaching this game. I think for many of us, I'm playing, a game like this, and our tendency is to ask, what's the best bird? My kids have asked me this. I'm playing the game. I'm watching someone play the game, and they say, what's the best bird? Now, it's one thing to have a favorite bird, but what's the best bird? Which one is the best? Well, it sort of depends on what you're trying to accomplish. It sort of depends on what the need is. Some birds simply can't do what needs to be done. Have all the blackbirds you want. They may not even be able to reach the pigs. They're useless. You might have a whole level of glass. You need the bluebird. See, our tendency is to ask, what's the best? What's the good one, the right one? Well, it depends on what needs to be done. A lot of people go about their lives evaluating themselves based on the criteria that the world is setting for them. You like to look at your own situation, find out how you have been made, and immediately wish you had been made different. Immediately wish you had a different set of skills, abilities, powers. Things that you could do. You look at other people and you think, if only I could do that. If only I could do that. And so we look at our situation, we become insecure with what we've been given, with who we are and how we have been made. Not only do we get insecure, sometimes, if we're really good at something, we get arrogant. We get arrogant. We think, if only the rest of you were like me. If only the rest of you had the kinds of things that I have, then we would all get along. Then we would be successful. Then we would be, if all of you were made in the same exact way as me and valued things the way I value them, then something would happen. It's a tendency in the human heart, I think, to start to ask ourselves, how is it that we fit in to God's plan? If we have any sense of self-reflection, we'll start to ask, how do I fit into what God is doing? What role do I play? Is my role important? Does it even matter? We go through our lives and we often begin feeling aimless. And we're wondering, what is this even all about? I get up in the morning, I go to work, I do my thing, I come back home, I go to sleep, I wake up the next morning and I repeat this 5-6 times a week, and then I try to catch up on the lack of sleep on that one day off. Maybe 2 days. What's the point? It seems irrelevant. I don't seem to fit anywhere. I don't seem to have a good purpose. I'm like a useless bird in the game. Not even needed, unnecessary to the ultimate work that God is doing. And the pigs, they continue to keep us focused on our problems, on our crises, on our situations. And they love that. Because now we get to spend all of our energy figuring out how to spend all of our energy on solving all of our problems. And we continue in this downward spiral, looking inward, trying to figure out what it is that we need to do to fit in and to be what we want and to matter and to not be aimless and to have some sort of significance in life. And yet, all along, the pigs are snickering at us, laughing all the way, trying to keep us inwardly focused and not recognizing how it is that we have been made by God. So that's what we're going to do this morning. I am going to attempt to show us a couple of scriptures, to kind of look through a couple of passages and see how it is that God has crafted each and every one of us to love people in a unique way, to love people in only the way that we can, to be the kinds of people that others need in only the way that works for who you are, and to see how those pieces start to fit together in the plan that God has for us. So we're going to be studying in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And I'm going to be offering up a few hints, you might say, a few game hints for you this morning to help us identify a little bit more with the work that God is doing all around us. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. So let's go. Here's your first game hint. Your first game hint. You have been given the precise gifts. You have been given the precise gifts that God wanted you to have. Now, it sounds a little bit obvious at first, but let's take a look at this, starting in verse 4 of chapter 12 of 1 Corinthians. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but the same God works all of them in all men. You can also jump down to verse 11 real quick. All of these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and He gives to each one just as He determines. Verse 18 as well. But in fact, God has arranged the parts of the body, every one of them, just as He wanted them to be. You kind of get the flow of what's going on here, right? He starts off and he says, there's all sorts of different kinds of gifts. And it's really interesting. We love talking about this is kind of like the gift chapter, the spiritual gift chapter. But if you think about it, he talks about gifts, he talks about service, and he talks about workings in those first couple verses 4 and 5. And he says that God has done all of them. He has taken all of those things and He has worked them in each one of us. You know, we get kind of wrapped up in the gifts, but here it's much more expansive than that. It's who you are, it's what you do, it's how you serve, it's all of those workings. We'll call them for the morning gifts, but don't think in terms of some mystical spiritual gift. Think in terms of all of the service, all of the workings, all of the gifts, all of the abilities that have manifest in some way or another in your life. The uniqueness that is you, personality, your experiences, all of your abilities, your traits, all of that is the working in you, the uniqueness that God has made you. And here's what he said over and over. All of these, they're the work of the one and the same Spirit. God is doing them, and He has given them as He has seen fit. Each one of them as He has seen fit. Now, this is not quite like Christmas. At Christmas time, we want to get the gifts that we want. Doesn't that this is what we do. This is what we hope. We ask our kids to come up with a list for us and tell us what they want, because I don't want to be a lousy dad and get them nothing that they want. I want to get them things that they want. And of course, we all want this. Cheryl likes to make certain that she drops hints like for a month or so to let me know what she wants, and I really appreciate it, so I don't look like a complete moron on Christmas Day, and I actually get her things that she wants. This is a good thing. She'll send it through the kids sometimes, and it gets a little bit muddled, but you know what? It's good. It's helpful still that I can get what she wants, because that's what we really... But so this isn't really like that, because what God does is He gives us what He wants, which actually is very much more like the first Christmas, isn't it? How many of you would have picked the first Christmas story and made it that way, if it were up to you? How many of you would have taken the King of the universe and put Him in a fragile place as a babe in a manger? How many of you would have taken the King and the Savior and the Messiah of the nation of Israel and soon all of humanity and put him in a crib pursued by a crazy king? Who would have done this? Who would have had this idea of God breaking into the human story in this way? God didn't give us what we wanted. We would want a conquering king. We would want it clear and obvious and strength and power and written in the skies, not some mysterious story that a few magi and a couple shepherds are privy to. We would want it bigger and bolder and better than that. We would have designed it very different. I want the gift a certain way. But the first Christmas, God gives it the way He wanted it. He gave us exactly what He wanted. And in there comes a sense of trust and confidence that the way He wants it is good and is right. And when He works His magic in you, He's done the same exact thing. He has given you what He wanted you to have. Your unique makeup, who you are, is a gift from God, and it's waiting to be opened. And when He gives it to you, that means that is what you're responsible for. Nothing more. Nothing else. He has given you that gift, and that is what will define whether or not you are living out your life according to His plan. Are you living it out according to what He has given you? You know, it's very easy for me to, in this connected kind of a world, all of you get to go home and Google up, if this were your interest, like the top 10 or 20 preachers and teachers and church leaders in the entire world. And you can watch them online today. In fact, I'm surprised you're here, instead of watching church at home and listening to people that actually know what they're doing. And I get to say to myself, if only I could be like them. If only I could do what they do. If only I could teach like they do. If only if I could preach like they did. If only I could lead like they do. If only I was a better pastor. They care for people in a way that I don't have it in me. I am terrible at hospitals and the whole compassion thing, which is sort of like seems to go with the pastoral thing, and it's just not my thing, and wow. You see what I'm doing? I'm becoming responsible for who they are, not responsible for who I am, who God has crafted me to be. If He has done this, then it is good, and I can trust in that. I can trust in Him and how liberating and how freeing. He goes on to tell us that all of these gifts are important. They're equally important, and that means we can't look down on other people for what they are, for how they are, who they are. And it also means we can't look down on ourselves. It means we can't browbeat. We can't be frustrated and angry that we haven't been given whatever it is that we think we need to be successful in this kingdom work. God says, you are responsible for what I have given you. And they're all equal, and they work in the same way through the power of God in your life. Now, after he does this whole they're all equal thing, I'm not going to develop it real thoroughly here, but if you go home and you later read the next chapter, Paul does suddenly change his tune, and it's a little bit startling at first. Then he suddenly talks about the greater gift. And very quickly he'll say, oh, by the way, if you really want the greater gifts, then go after prophecy, not this other mystical gift of tongues. And you're like, well, wait, I just thought you said all the gifts were equal, and now you're saying that there's a greater gift. How come? And I guess we must all want to be this, whatever this whole prophet thing is. That's what we should be. That's the greater gift, Paul says. You see, I think we're missing the point, because what Paul is developing in that narrative, in that discussion, is really that the greater gifts are those that do good for others. That's the greater gift. That's why one gift might be greater than another. It's the way that gift is exercised that matters. That's the part of it, and that's really our second hint. Our second game hint is that your gifting, your work, your service, your gifting is meant to work together for the common good. Your gifting is meant to work together. So not only have you been given these precise gifts that God has uniquely given to you, but they're meant to work together for the common good. Look at verse 7. Now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. That's the key and organizing sentence for our entire next section, which is sort of important to know. That now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. To one there is given, through the Spirit, the message of wisdom To another, the message of knowledge by means of the same Spirit. To another, faith by the same Spirit. To another, the gifts of healing by that one Spirit. To another, miraculous powers. To another, prophecy. To another, distinguishing between spirits. To another, speaking in different kinds of tongues. And to still others, another, the interpretation of tongues. All of these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and he gives to each one just as he determines. The body is a unit, though it is made up of many parts, and though all of its parts are many, they form one body. So it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slave or free, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Now the body is not made up of one part, but of many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has arranged the parts of the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. You know, when we are looking at a scripture like this, we like the sexy stuff. We like the flashy stuff. We look at this, we're like, oh, let's talk about gifts. Let's talk about the wisdom and the tongues. Sister Mary had an insight. There's no greater joy nor greater reward than to make a fundamental difference in someone's life. No greater reward than to make a fundamental difference. No greater joy. When we read a text like this, we want to find out how it is that we can get a gift that's great. But we forget the organizing idea. The organizing idea is what Sister Mary's going after. Now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. This isn't a list that we're supposed to get all excited about the types of gifts and how it is that these gifts are going to make me more significant and powerful and better and all of these kinds of things. How is it that your gifts, whatever they might be, this is just a list of workings of God's Spirit. How is it that they can be put together for the common good? How can they be used for the building up of the work of God and for the church? How does that work? You know, we get hung up on the types of gifts. How many times I've gone into this passage with people over and over through the years, and for myself, to figure out what are the types of gifts and how we can get one gift versus another gift and how this gift might impact and I want to know all about the gifting. But I forget this is all about the service and the giftings and the workings of the one Spirit who does his work of diversity in one body for a purpose. We want types of gifts. He's talking about the purpose of gifts here. That's the real power that's found in this text, to talk about the purpose, the building up for the common good. And I think, you know, for each of us, we've really got to beware of utilizing our gifts in a way that doesn't build up. You can see how dangerous this could become, right? We start to get involved in our lives, and at the very most, we leverage the way that we have been created for our good and for the good of, say, our immediate family. And what takes place there is you create for yourself a very small universe, a very small place in which to live and dwell and exercise your gifts. And they max out in that tiny little hole. Now, here's why this is so brilliant and why I think the pigs are laughing at us this entire time. Because they know that this is a half-truth. They know that you need to exercise your gifts. They know that you need to do the things that you were meant to do, that you were created for these things. And so what they do is they encourage you to deploy them towards selfish ends, towards self-centered ends. And what you end up doing is swimming in this very tiny little pond, self-absorbed, and forgetting that there are much greater things around you that matter. You start to take yourself way too seriously. And all the while, you're getting snickers in the background because you are living out a half-truth. Most powerful lie, a half-truth, most powerful lie you could imagine. Because what the scriptures are telling us is these things ought to be leveraged for the common good, for the building up and the connecting with others. There's a study that was done in psychological science. I found this a fascinating study. Researchers at the University of Michigan, they were trying to figure out this whole it's more blessed to give than receive kind of an idea. You know, we use it as sort of a neat little saying, especially around the holidays. More blessed to give than to receive. Here's what they found out. The people who reported providing no instrumental or emotional support to others, so the people who were swimming in their tiny little pond, those people were more than twice as likely to die in the next 5 years than those who had reported helping someone in a significant way. If they reported that they had helped spouses, friends, relatives, and neighbors, then they were much more likely to live and be healthy in the next 5 years. You see, this is wild. Your longevity, not just your happiness and your joy and your peace, is tied to you living for the common good. Why would that? I mean, I look at this and I'm like, that's amazing. You would think that investing in what you want and you care about is what you really should do to be most satisfied. And the researchers are saying, no, that's actually not. It really is. You really are more blessed when you give than when you receive. If you don't give, you'll actually die sooner. It's wild to me. This is they go on, they say support provided to friends, family, and neighbors included transportation, errands, shopping, housework, child care, or other tasks. Support given to spouses included being available to talk and to make their spouses feel loved. I mean, this is not extraordinary service. This is an attitude of the heart that looks to the building up of others. That's how we were designed. This is how we were wired by God, and this is how the soul will find hope and peace and satisfaction and rest. Our third game hint for you is that interdependence is essential if we are to accomplish the work. Interdependence is essential if we are to accomplish the work. Look at verse 21. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable, are treated with special modesty. While our presentable parts need no special treatment. But God has combined the members of the body and has given greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. The design was for God's people to be knit together in their unique ways and to form a team to accomplish the greater work. If you are a blackbird, you need the bluebird to break through. You can't do it all. Now, you know what? Maybe I can apply 5 blackbirds to a problem, but it will not be solved as elegantly and as delicately and as precisely as if I was using the right tool for the right job, even in the right order. I think for us as a congregation, I look at this, and we sort of begin to recognize the value of being together and working together. You may have heard this story. It was a guy, Victor Geisbrecht. He's 61 years old. He stops on a Wisconsin highway to help a stranger, Sarah Berg. And Sarah Berg had gotten a flat tire, and so he stops to help her. Very nice guy. Apparently, he wasn't as strong as he had imagined, because after he left her, he drove down the road a little bit, and he has a heart attack. So he's out there helping this poor lady change, her tire. He gets the better of him. He's down the street. Well, anyway, now that she has a fixed tire, she's in her car, and she's passing his stopped car. So she sees him stopped. She gets out to find out what's going on, like what just happened. She sees him heart attacking. So she performs CPR and saves his life. Now, you stop and help a guy, help a girl change a tire. She stops and helps you in a heart. And we look at this and we go, that's the way the world ought to work. Working together in this kind of a way, being a team in that kind of a way, giving and then, of course, receiving from even the good that you have done. That's the way this world ought to work. And that is one of the great beauties that we have seen at Beacon. If you were to ask, what is it, one of the key things besides the work of God and the power of the Spirit and God's sense of humor and all that kind of stuff as to what's been going on at Beacon, it's that He has put together a group of people, folks, who work together as a team, who understand the value of this. By the way, it is Beacon's birthday today. You guys may not know that. So happy birthday, Beacon. It is our 6th anniversary, right? It's our 6th anniversary. From this day is the day that we opened this building here on this corner, that we started services the very first week of December. And we're going to be giving you guys just a little gift here. Usher, could I get an usher to Scott? Would you be able to help out? And Joel, you want to help out too? And just, pass them, kind of go down the center and pass them out. We're going to ask you to take one per family. These are our, Christmas ornaments. We always we kind of give out a gift to you guys on our birthday because it just feels right to more Beacon-esque for us. And it's a way of remembering and just marking our moment. It is our birthday, and we're real excited about that, here on our anniversary, we get to think about who we are as a church and as a team. The teamwork is the key component as to how we function, to work together in this way. And I think that our Christmas Fest is like a great example of this. So how many of you were at Christmas Fest again? Quite a few, right? Those of you who missed out, really sorry. It was great. It was an amazing night. It was an absolute blast. Anyone who's there has got a little bit of a Christmas Fest hangover right now. And so we're a little bit groggy, a little bit slow and all that. But you know what? If you were to think through this event, you were to work through it, you could go through this room and start to say, oh, wait, you helped out over in this thing, and oh, this person did this thing, and thank you so much for helping out in this way, and you kind of work your way out through this room, and you realize different people doing different things, such significant ways in their way that work for them. Steve and I were just talking about it this morning. One of the things that Steve did, he was at the Christmas Fest, and he noticed there were all sorts of folks hanging out around the party, and if they didn't know anybody, they were just waiting for their kids to do something or whatever, waiting, and he would just walk up and start talking to people, telling them about the church. You know how much more compelling it is to hear from someone like Steve, who has been a part of the church now for 5 years and wasn't interested in these kinds of things before, but now is and is excited about the church. I mean, for him to tell it, it's normal. For me to tell it, it's sales. People don't trust it if I'm saying it. I mean, my goodness, of course, this is what I do. Yes, church is great. You should come out to it. I mean, who believes that? You believe it when Steve says, yeah, I'm from the neighborhood. I work a real job. And, unlike Robert, it's like, and so, you have this idea that, he relates, he connects. We had people who were decorating, you could ask, what it was that you did. We get our sound crew doing amazing work, and our band, and, Trevor and Alex were great. Dawn, thank you for heading up Christmas Fest. Woo! Just really remarkable. We got our coffee folks back here. We got the folk Jerry's who were doing coffee like all night. I mean, you can go through this room and say what it is that each person was doing. John over here. Actually, John, you didn't help at Christmas Fest, did you? You didn't do anything. I'm just kidding. There is no John over there. It was totally I'm just messing with you. There's no John that I'm calling out. But, you could ask, what... And to see the different types of things all working together in this way, it's the power of a community of faith like this. And there is an interdependence in this. We need other people to do the work that only they can do. They'll do it in their way, in their unique gift set, and they'll do it for the common good. And we integrate these things. And that interdependence, here's what's so beautiful about it. If you notice what he said at the very end there, if one part, verse 26, if one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. This interdependence ought to lead to a kind of connectedness, physically, emotionally, spiritually. We work together and we become intertwined in our lives, in our souls. And that intertwinement, that entanglement that takes place creates in us an empathy. It allows us to begin to experience the hurts and the joys of other people and to share with them in that. When your egg is stolen, we all experience it. We all hurt when you hurt. That's the beauty, that's the benefit of being knit together as a spiritual family and a community of faith. And that means that it says when you take joy, you can take joy when others are honored. And so when you get that, kindle fire, we're all going to cheer for you. We're not going to be jealous. We're not going to be like, how come I didn't get a Kindle Fire and you got a Kindle Fire? You're honored, and we're excited about the fact that you have been honored. And did you know that the Kindle Fire plays Angry Birds? Did you know that? It does. It plays Angry Birds. And if you were the kind of a person that likes that game, then you'll notice one other thing when you're playing on your Kindle Fire, that every once in a while the birds will cheer. They'll cheer for each other. Woohoo! You guys know they're doing, woo, right? They're cheering for each other. And if you watch the birds carefully behind the slingshot, you'll see them bouncing and flipping over sometimes. Like they're just waiting, they're excited, and you're launching a bird, and you've got your little peanut gallery, they're like flipping around, go, woo, woo. They're all excited because they're celebrating your successes, and they're mourning your losses. And when we're knit together as a community like this, that's where the heart will thrive. That's where the community will be alive and vibrant. And that's where events like Christmas Fest will be the natural outflow of hearts that are sold out to God. When we look at this, he'll get into in a moment this idea that the greatest of these, all of these, whether your gifts are small or large, the most excellent way will be when they're marked by love. The next chapter is the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. And he's going to say, I'll show you the most excellent way. And that way is when our hearts and our lives, whatever you do, your gifts, your workings, your service, when those are marked by love, you've chosen the more excellent way. And no matter what you do, if it is small, if it is large, if it is obvious, if it is hidden, if it is behind the scenes, or if it is up front, and everyone gets to note it, those things, if done in the most excellent way, if marked by love, will find a place of great joy in the Father's heart. You will be delighted, he will be delighted, and you will find the fulfillment and the lasting impact on your soul. To know that God has created you in just this unique way. This is our dream. If we could live our next 6 years as a church in this way, increasingly marked in the most excellent way, this way of love, so that each and every one of us in our own unique way learns to love more fully and completely and sacrificially in the building up of the work of God and being a part of that together with an interdependence that goes beyond what the world would even find normal or natural, but is a Spirit-led kind of a thing, then I would say that we'd done well. That we as a community of faith had done what we had been called to do. Small or great, we will find great joy in that, and God will smile on who we are becoming as a spiritual family. Would you guys pray with me? Lord, we're just asking on this day of our anniversary and our celebration time, we're just asking for your continued hand of guidance, your leading, and of your plan to be laid out before us. We know, Lord, that you've made each one of us in only the way that you wanted us to be. You've made us unique, and that you have given us value beyond what we know, and that you have desired for us to live together and work together in a collaborative way, in an interdependent way, so that our love might be made more full and complete and manifest. We would have a community in which to practice it, and a resource in which to tap into to do great and amazing things for those who are far from you, whose hearts are drifting, and who need to know the message of a good God. This Christmas time, Lord, I pray that we would unwrap these gifts in ever increasing ways. We ask all of these things in Christ's name. Amen.